So I thought it might be interesting to have a bit of a sort of walk down memory lane and a bit of a discussion of how we came up with our SwitchBolt fastening arrangement for apertureless roof racks. Now we first looked at the problem because there were no apertures in the Series 6 and we thought, okay, how are we going to get a thread or a fastener into these slots? So the simplest thing to do is a nut block, because that's what we've traditionally done, and to shape it in a way that we can drop it in. So this one is a nut block that we'll rotate to get in position, and we just drop it into the, see that's actually upside down already, I'll talk about that later. Drop it in there and that gives me a thread, and then when I turn that, it'll rotate, give me my clamping. But what we found was there's no way to ensure that that's rotated in the right position, especially if you're sort of undoing stuff. And the biggest problem was how to get that nut block out. So I can't actually get it out with a bolt. That seems like the most obvious thing, put a bolt in and get it out, but because the width and the size of that nut block, you can't get it out. And the reason why we want to make that nut block as wide as possible is the strength. We need that material there, because you've got a hole through this nut block. You can't have it too small. So what do? We'll make a tool. Easy solution. So this is a tool to help get this nut block out. And I've shot myself in the foot because, oh no, this one comes, oh, almost. There you go, it's like operation. So what we did, we put that little chamfer on there so we could actually get it out. Now, we weren't happy with that because of the rotation issue and so forth. So we came up with some other ideas of how we might be able to ensure that it rotates, like this little ramp thing here. So same sort of thing, but as you tighten it up, these ramps have rotated in place. But then what if I put it in upside down? It doesn't work. And then it's also getting too thin, so there's no material left. See how this one's thin? So from a strength point of view, we didn't really like that one. So you can see all these different versions. The other option is to put the hole right to the edge, and if we wanted to make it fit in between, you'd have to make it narrow. So you're only going to get like a millimetre of material because the thread inside is actually a bit bigger than the hole. So we weren't too comfortable with that. So imagine that, because that fits in, well, that sort of fits in, that fits in there. Imagine that with a hole that size through it. You haven't got much left, not much meat left. So we'll try this one. Bloody fell in upside down. So I put it in and it's flipped itself over unintentionally. I'm not doing a very good, that one came out a bit easier. So that one sort of worked. Now the other considerations we had to think about was manufacturability, how we can make something that's going to be in the right price point, because we don't want these to be too expensive. And for us, I think it was the fact that there's too many things that could go wrong with some of these options here, like putting stuff in upside down, not rotating it and clamping it up in place. So that's why we came up with this solution. It seems like a fairly simple solution, but it's very considered, and we wanted to make sure that the chance of installing it incorrectly is super low or super obvious that you've done it incorrectly, because we want to maintain that integrity of that clamping or the attachment of your brackets to your roof rack, because potentially it could be quite a dangerous situation. Even if the bolts just loosen off a little bit, things could come off. Now, before we committed to the T-bolt, we went and sought the feedback of one of our resellers who's got a heap of experience in the roof rack space and has seen it all from the point of view of brackets and accessories and so forth. And he suggested to us that we make sure that whatever we do, that fastener is installed correctly. So we went away and included this retainer based on his feedback, and it's made that product so much better. I forgot to mention that we tested these at 300 kilos and they just actually bent the whole slat. So quite happy with that. So that's how we came up with our relatively simple solution. But it took us, I don't know how many goes, we've got all these different tools and see how you get this stuff out. But to tell you the truth, if you had that slot in the middle there and you're hanging off the side of the roof rack, you're not fishing that thing out. So even without the tool, you could probably do it, it'd take you forever. So really interesting. I reckon we probably did about 20 or 30 different versions, and 3D printing is a godsend because you can quickly try things. And it's not until you actually try to use these, you realise how much of a pain in the butt they can be, or the risk of actually not installing things correctly. So there you go, that's how the SwitchBolt came to life. Let me just run through it and see what I come up with. Looking to arrange and attach awnings and brackets to your brackets. Yes. That should be a not happy tool. So, not happy tool.